Hi, today I'm talking to Ollie Hills from Birmingham Updates, and today we're just going to be having a chat about Birmingham Updates, using their emails, and get to know Ollie a bit more. So, Ollie, can you tell us a bit more about what got you into Birmingham Updates and a bit more about how you use email?
Yeah, so Birmingham Updates is an incredible story locally, for sure. So it actually set up 6 years ago during the riots of all things, where Luke, who's our founder and editor-in-chief, created a page to dispel myth and rumour about what was going on in the city in quite a difficult time. So the Bull's head had been knocked off, for example, was a myth. The children's hospital was being looted is obviously not true. So Luke created this Facebook page to update people of the city, and it grew to 65,000 followers within 3 days, which is truly incredible.
Yeah.
And it continued to grow, so we provide the city with updates around news, weather, travel, lifestyle, what's going on, food reviews, you name it, we'll cover it. And it's grown now to over 500,000 followers across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, which is brilliant. But for us, we're now shifting into how do we get more information around our audience through the likes of email.
And what does your audience look like? What demographic do you have?
Yes, so the good thing for us is we've never boosted a post or paid for a like, so everyone is fully organic. That means that our audience is generally people who are interested in what's going on in Birmingham, which is great. In terms of the type of people, so our biggest audience is female, aged between 25 and 34. But 80% of our audience, both male and female, are between 18 and 55. So we've got a huge variety of people who follow our pages.
And what made you, because you've obviously used social media an awful lot in there, you've got a great following in that, but what made you go from the transition of using social media to bringing email into the mix? Because some are seeing them as two opposing channels.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's all about understanding more about your customer and who your audience actually is. So from a business perspective, we're looking to increase the amount of revenue we can generate through advertising. For me, that's very important for a brand to understand, well, who exactly is this person, who exactly is this content reaching? For me, we can do that through email a lot more successfully than social media.
Yeah.
Plus, as well, it adds...
In what way? How do you find that improves it?
So we can ask more direct questions. So if people have opted into Birmingham Updates kind of weekly newsletter, we can start to provide information personalised to that person. So we can start asking questions and running competitions to see what type of person reacts to news about, I don't know, restaurants or bars or retail, or whether they're interested in the arts and culture. So we can start to personalise messages through email that is harder to do through social.
And you say all this information is opted in as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody double opts in through GDPR with email, and they sign up to what is a weekly email that goes out every Thursday, and that provides a template for what's kind of your week in news and what's happening over the weekend.
And what sort of when it comes to sending the emails out, what sort of formats do you use from a design perspective?
Yeah, we try and keep it quite simple. For me, everyone's reading it now on the phone, so we do a lot of testing before it goes out with regards to how does it look through on mobile. We know people are busy. People are very busy, so when they receive the email, we want them to digest the information quickly, get all straight to the point, really. You don't want them to kind of mess around trying to find more information. If you can make it really succinct, good use of imagery, even video. We're doing a lot more in video at the moment through email. We see that gets a lot better kind of open rate, but also click-through rate as well on the emails.
So it's from what you're saying, it's smaller amounts of text with click-through links and relevant imagery and videos to go with it.
Absolutely, yep, spot on.
Okay, fantastic. Can you tell us a bit about some of the other campaigns you've done, which have been a really successful campaign you've done?
Yeah, so we launched our latest product, which is a keyring, which gives you access to offers and discounts around Birmingham. So we were able to understand through our audience who we believed would be interested in that type of proposition. So who would like to get a discount at the likes of Malmaison or Tom's Kitchen. It's probably your kind of female, say between 25, 45. So we honed in on that audience on our email and started to ask them questions around, would this be of interest to you? Would you like to sign up to a mailing list specifically around that? And then when we launched, obviously we had a big influx of purchases straight from the word go, which was really successful.
And what sort of engagement did you from an analytics perspective, what sort of engagement did you get from these emails?
Yeah, so we got an open rate of about 45-50%, which was really high for for kind of a cold email about a new product. Click-through rate onto the website was about 25-28%, so it kind of varied depending on the campaign. We do a lot of A/B testing with our emails to make sure that we're honing in exactly on the right message to the right audience. So yeah, it was phenomenally successful, but actually it's that the email is an extension of what you're putting on your website.
Very much so, yeah.
So you've got to make sure the message is consistent across the two. And we believe we did that pretty well in terms of, hey, this is what it's all about on the website. Let's condense that down into a really succinct email to drive traffic on there to then make a purchase or sign up. So
you talked about the A/B testing there.
Yep.
What were the things that worked really well from a testing perspective?
yeah, for me, it's all about headline. Subject line of the email it's got to be snappy.
Yeah.
It's got to be of interest. People have got to spot that in their filling in boxes and say, hey, that's of interest to me. So we did a lot of testing around what headline is going to get traction through.
Yeah.
It's silly things like colours of button and colours of links.
So what sort of colours work best then?
Actually, our brand purple was the most successful. Yeah, so keeping it on colour. We keep the links blue, really, because everyone's used to that. But button-wise, yeah, when we had a purple button opposed to like an orange or a grey, it works a lot better. So yeah, it's amazing how deep you can dig into it, and therefore optimise and enhance every campaign going forward based on the learning we've already got.
Yeah, and I guess the key thing, it is testing and measuring, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you need to. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's that's what it's all about. For any startup or for any business, there's no point just firing out 1,000 things and hoping one lands. It's understanding, well, what worked about that, or more importantly, what didn't work. Once you can learn what didn't work, hone that into what does work, you get much more successful campaigns. But also for the audience, I think the ability now to personalize content based on what the audience wants and what they've kind of told you about themselves, that enables a lot better campaigns in terms of the content you provide, making sure it's really relevant. So they know that every time an email comes into the inbox from Birmingham Updates, it's like, hey, they know everything about me. I know this is really relevant. I know this is going to be really useful for planning for the weekend or knowing what's on in the city.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the personalisation side of it, what does that mean to your business?
Yeah, good question. So for me, we've got 500,000 followers across social, but do we know if they've got kids? Do we know whereabouts they live? Do we know what the postcodes are? Not really, because it's more of just a follow on a page. When you can get through to email and start kind of incentivizing people to answer questions or do questionnaires, you start to find out a lot more about those people, which isn't too intrusive. It just makes the content that we deliver more relevant, which, as someone on the receiving end of lots of emails, if I know something's personalized to me and is therefore going to be relevant, the content's going to be right, I'm much more likely to read it and engage with that content. So that really helps us having the email ability to capture that information.
And I'm guessing as well from an advertising perspective, if you can say to your advertiser, let's say there's a restaurant in the Edgbaston area, we've got this amount of demographic there, that helps from your perspective. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the right question that every advertiser asks. If they weren't asking that question, I'd be quite concerned. But without understanding that, we can't answer that question well enough. So yeah, it was a huge transition in the business when I took over in January to really dig deep and understand exactly what people want. We've most recently launched a job board, for example, and that was based on an audience survey that said, tell me what you like. Hey, how could we improve the service? And everyone said, well, we're interested in what's going on in the city. Cool, launch the keyring. And we're interested about local jobs. Cool, launch a job board. So it's really understanding the audience allows us then to either create our own products or enable advertisers to reach the target audience to get a better return on investment for them.
Yeah, and as you say, it's about making, now you're going down the job board route, it's about you need to commercialise this a lot more, don't you?
Yeah, it's a tough balance because of where it started. So obviously from the riots, it was quite a community interest page. But hey, it's a great success story for Birmingham. We now hire 4 people, so we're bringing lots of jobs back into Birmingham. It's a real success story for the city. And yeah, we all know that we've got to pay the bills at the end of the day. So we're trying not to spam our website with adverts, because I think we're moving away from that as a nation, and clicking onto a website and getting 30 videos pop up is not a good experience. So we've stayed away from there, and we focus purely on content. So in reality, we're content creators for brands in Birmingham, which we then share with our audience through email or through social. So we try and do it a slightly nicer way with regards to advertising, but there is a requirement for revenue in order for us to pay salaries and whatnot.
But more importantly, from an audience perspective, they've told you they want to receive this information, and you've now got advertisers who are prepared to work with you on that. So it's about understanding your analytics. It enables you to do the best content from a commercial and from a user perspective. Yeah,
exactly. And I think as well that there's many ways that you can do advertising, either through email or through social. I always believe content always wins.
Yeah.
Content today absolutely wins. If your content's good, you get people engaged with it. My expression around reaches for show, engagements for dough, I really believe in that. So having a massive email list or a massive social page, but you're not getting the open rates or you're not getting the engagement, it's pointless for me. So if you can create content that the audience engages with, that is much more powerful. And that's why we work with our brand partners quite closely, or extremely closely, to understand what their target is, what their goal is, but also we understand our audience better than anybody else. So we're kind of the content creators to turn their vision, the brand's vision, into something that our audience will want to engage with and want to see. And that's the really important thing. And then the channels of where we distribute that, so through email, what type of person do we believe is going to engage with this content? We start to target those.
Fantastic. And we've heard about how you've done a lot of campaigns, a lot of targeting, which have all gone fantastically well. Part of doing brilliantly is we learn from our mistakes. So 100%. What sort of campaigns, what campaigns have you done where they haven't gone so well, and what have you picked out from it?
Yeah, no, it sounds rosy, doesn't it? But it's definitely not for the want of trying. When we first started emailing, it was very much about more of a sales outbound type of proposition, telling brands and advertisers in Birmingham what we're all about, that we're not just a news channel, that we're more than that. We sent out, 150 emails and probably got 3 responses.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the message was wrong. We didn't understand what problems advertisers were currently facing to reach a local audience. We sent out a couple of messages, A/B testing, with what we believed was the problem and how we could solve it. The reality is we're miles away from that. So we honed that back and went out and spoke to more brands, understood what the problems were. Then when we came back to do a second follow-up campaign, it was a lot more successful because we'd honed the message of the email to really show that we're solving a problem that's out there in the market at the moment.
Brilliant. So it sounds like things are moving fantastically well for you guys. The business is evolving really nicely. What's next for you?
So it's a really exciting time. But Birmingham Updates is where it started. We actually converted into Updates Media Limited in December of 2015. I took over as MD in January of this year. And the vision for the company is to have an update in every major city around the UK. I always say to our investor and chairman, the day we launch Sydney Updates is the day that I'll retire. So that's kind of the trajectory for where we're going.
At least be working from the beach.
Well, yeah, one of the two. So, we've got London Updates now, which has got 65,000 followers across social media, launching email proposition with that very soon. And similarly in Coventry, we've got Coventry Updates, which is around 23,000 followers at the moment. So we're now trialing, testing, how do we scale what has been so successful in Birmingham. Right here, right now, we're the most engaged online local platform in the whole of the West Midlands, which is incredible. It's how do we bottle that secret sauce and scale that across the UK with Manchester updates, Newcastle updates, Glasgow updates. So really exciting 2018. We've done really well at understanding what Birmingham Updates is, the power of Birmingham Updates, how we engage with our audience and how we add value to advertisers. Now it's replicating that around.
And I guess from what you've been saying earlier, it's not just about replicating the same thing, it's about doing testing, understanding the slight cultural differences in the areas, so it's providing that added value content constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at Newcastle University, so pick that as the example, and I could get on a train not too far away in New Street and pick up a KFC. I could then arrive in Newcastle. I get the same product, but the way that I was spoken to behind the counter was much different because of the accent changes.
Yeah.
So it's all about harnessing the local understanding to deliver content which works for that audience. So you may speak to someone in Birmingham quite different than you would in Newcastle. So it's very much, as you say, trialing, testing, understanding how do you get engagement in the new cities on the basis of what we've done so far in Birmingham.
Brilliant. And if I could ask, if you could give one piece of advice to a professional email marketer out there, what would that advice be?
Test. Absolutely. Yeah, testing. I've never ever sent out a campaign where it worked first time. We obviously talked about the keyring email. I think that was probably second or third one that we sent out that worked really well. So it's all about really understanding who is on the receiving end of that email, what their problems are, and therefore what messaging is really important to them. Don't be afraid to try. I think everyone calls it failing. I call it learning. Yeah. So make sure you're trialing it. Understand, hey, that didn't go so well. What did we learn? And then just keep harnessing and improving your email campaigns until you hit the winning ticket.
Brilliant. And if we can ask one final question, we've got the beloved GDPR coming our way soon. What's Birmingham Updates doing to prepare for the GDPR?
Yeah, good question. We're quite lucky in the fact that our email campaign started relatively recently. So before we launched our email campaign, we were very kind of research heavy beforehand. So we get double opt-in, all of that good stuff. For me, it's all about the processes. It's the ongoing processes, and it's understanding how that's going to impact the business ongoing. Personally, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. Mentioned earlier, the content is always king. So personally, I prefer to have a database that's smaller, that's more engaged, than a large database of where you're only getting kind of 2-3% open rates. So I think it's a real opportunity within the market to really hone in and understand, hey, who is my target audience now? What do they want to be receiving from me? And how can we harness and make that content so strong that they never ever opt out, and actually they're more likely to provide you with more information so you can make it even more personalized. So it's a bit of a pain, just making sure that you go through the processes and understand how it's going to affect the business, but overall I think it's a really good opportunity for us.
Brilliant. I completely agree. The one thing I've always said is I know that as soon as you do pretty much any form of segmentation on a list, you look to have a 40% increase in open rates. So I think this is just going to basically put the ultimate segmentation on immediately.
Yeah,
and so from a return on investment perspective, it's going to go from 30 to 1 to 60, whatever it is, 70, 100 to 1.
Yeah,
it's going to be really powerful for us all. Ollie, thank you very much for speaking to us today, and best of luck with it all.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay.